Commander Taman Park stood in the Grand Hall of the Galactic Federation Council. The massive room stretched high above him, filled with hundreds of alien species from across the galaxy. Their voices echoed off the crystal walls as they debated humanity's future. Taman watched with growing dread as the vote numbers appeared on the holographic display. Votes against humanity. Only 3 votes in favor. The crystalline Vorthak representative's voice rang out like breaking glass. The motion passes. Humanity is hereby removed from all military operations within the Galactic Federation. Taman felt his heart sink. 20 years of service meant nothing now. He looked around the chamber at the aliens who had once called humans their allies. The energy beings called the Luminous flickered with what seemed like satisfaction. The hive-minded Nexari buzzed their approval in unison. "This decision is final," announced the council speaker, a tall being made of living light. "Human military forces are considered too primitive and aggressive for modern galactic warfare. Your species will be relocated to protected status." Protected status. Taman knew what that really meant. Humans would become like pets, watched over and controlled by their alien guardians. No more human ships patrolling space. No more human soldiers defending colonies. No more respect. Back on Earth, Dr. So-Young Kim received the transmission in her laboratory. The hologram of Taman flickered as he delivered the news. His uniform looked wrinkled, and his eyes were red with exhaustion. "They voted us out. So-Young," he said quietly. "Complete military exclusion. They said our weapons are too crude and our tactics too unpredictable." So-Young slammed her fist on the metal desk. Test tubes rattled and papers scattered. "Crude? Our kinetic weapons saved their lives in the Arcturus campaign. Unpredictable? That's why we won when their fancy energy shields failed." "It doesn't matter now," Taman replied. "The decision is made. All human military assets are to be surrendered within 30 days. Our colonies will be placed under Federation protection." So-Young stared at the hologram for a long moment. Outside her window, she could see human fighters landing at the base. Soon those ships would belong to aliens who thought humans were too stupid to understand real warfare. "What about Captain Lee and his fleet?" she asked. "Dongwu is refusing to surrender his ships. He's taking volunteers and heading for the Outer Rim. I think he's right. We need to preserve something of ourselves out there." Captain Dongwu Lee stood on the bridge of his battleship, the Soul's Pride. Around him, his crew worked frantically to prepare for departure. They had been humanity's finest naval officers. Now they were about to become refugees. "Sir, we have 47 ships ready to follow us," reported Lieutenant Ji-Hoon Park. "That's about half of our remaining fleet." Dongwu nodded grimly. "What about the others?" "Some are following orders to surrender. Others are unsure." Through the view screen, Dongwu could see Federation ships approaching. The alien vessels looked sleek and advanced with their smooth hulls and glowing energy cores. They made human ships look like metal boxes with engines attached. But those metal boxes had fought and won battles across the galaxy. "Open a channel to all human vessels," Dongwu ordered. His image appeared on screens throughout the human fleet. Officers and crew members looked up from their work to listen to their captain's words. "Today, our allies have become our guardians," Dongwu began. "They say we are too violent, too primitive for their advanced galaxy. They forget that our violence saved their worlds. Our primitive weapons destroyed enemies their advanced technology could not touch." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "I will not surrender my ship to beings who think humans are pets to be protected. Any ship that wants to follow me into the void is welcome. We will find new worlds. We will build new homes. And maybe, someday when the galaxy needs us again, we will be ready." Admiral Hee-Jin Choi watched from Earth's orbital command station as dozens of human ships jumped to hyperspace. Her heart ached as she saw them disappear into the darkness between stars. Those were good officers, brave souls who refused to accept their species' humiliation. But she had her own responsibilities. As head of Human Strategic Command, she had to manage the transition. Federation officials were already demanding access to human military facilities. They wanted to study human weapons and tactics even as they claimed such things were obsolete. A communication screen lit up beside her. The face of a Vorthak admiral appeared, its crystal features reflecting the room's lights. Admiral Choi, we require immediate access to your tactical databases. Our analysis teams need to understand human combat methods for historical records. Hyojin kept her expression neutral. Of course, Admiral, though I'm curious why you need records of obsolete tactics. The alien's crystal face shifted slightly. For completeness, we must understand all forms of warfare, even primitive ones. After the transmission ended, Hyojin allowed herself a bitter smile. They called human tactics primitive, but they still wanted to study them. Perhaps the aliens were not as confident as they pretended. Over the following weeks, human colonies across the galaxy received their new Federation guardians. On New Sol, colonists watched as sleek alien ships landed in their fields. The aliens were polite but firm. Humans would no longer need to defend themselves. The Federation would handle all security matters. Farmer Kyung Ho Yun looked up from his crops as alien soldiers walked past his home. They carried weapons that hummed with energy and wore armor that seemed to bend light around it. Very advanced, very impressive. But Kyung Ho remembered the raider attacks 5 years ago. Human soldiers with their simple metal guns and basic tactics had saved his family. These new guardians looked powerful, but they had never been tested by real danger. In the capital city, former General Mi-Ren Seo packed her belongings. Her medals and commendations went into a simple box. 25 years of military service reduced to memories and metal trinkets. A young Federation officer watched her pack. The alien had 4 arms and skin like polished stone. General Seo, your tactical manual on asymmetric warfare has been quite educational. Mi-Ren paused in her packing. Glad it entertains you. Oh, it does more than entertain. Your species has a fascinating approach to problem solving. Very chaotic. Chaotic wins wars, Mi-Ren replied simply. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Perhaps in the past. Modern warfare requires precision, coordination, and advanced technology. Chaos is a luxury civilized species cannot afford. Mi-Ren closed her box and picked it up. You might be right. I hope you never find out differently. As she walked away, the alien watched her go with something that might have been uncertainty. For all their advanced technology and evolved thinking, the Federation had never faced an enemy that fought without rules. They had never needed the kind of desperate creativity that humans called upon in their darkest moments. In the outer rim of the galaxy, Captain Dongwu Li's exile fleet found an unnamed system with habitable worlds. They began building new settlements, new lives. They kept their weapons sharp and their tactics ready. They had a feeling the galaxy would need them again someday. The Federation believed they had evolved beyond the need for human warfare. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 5 years had passed since humanity's exile from the Galactic Federation. The galaxy enjoyed what the Federation called the Great Peace. Advanced alien civilizations patrolled space with their energy weapons and quantum shields. Crime had dropped to almost nothing. Wars between member species had ended completely. Colonel Sung Ho-yoon sat in his hidden bunker on the planet Haven, one of the secret human settlements in the Outer Rim. Banks of stolen Federation communication equipment surrounded him. His team of intelligence operators monitored alien transmissions day and night. Sir, we're picking up distress signals from the Kepler sector, reported analyst Bo-Ra Lim. Her fingers moved quickly across the holographic display, filtering through dozens of alien languages. Sung-Ho leaned forward. What kind of distress? Unknown raiders hit 3 Federation outposts in the last week. No survivors. No clear evidence of who did it. This was the 5th such attack in 2 months. Someone was targeting Federation positions, and they were doing it well, too well for the Federation's comfort. On the manufacturing world of New Geneva, engineer Minji Bayek put down her tools and wiped sweat from her forehead. Around her, dozens of human technicians worked on hybrid weapon systems. They combined human kinetic technology with salvaged alien energy cores. The plasma rifle prototype is ready for testing, called out technician Woo-Sung Kim from across the workshop. Minji walked over to examine the weapon. It looked like a human assault rifle, but energy conduits ran along its barrel. The Federation would call it primitive and advanced at the same time. That was exactly what she wanted. Good work. How many can we produce? With our current materials? Maybe 50 units per month. It wasn't much, but it was a start. If the humans in exile ever needed to fight again, they would be ready with weapons their enemies wouldn't expect. Meanwhile, pilot Jae-won Kang guided his scout ship through an asteroid field near the old Federation border. His ship was small and fast, built for stealth rather than combat. Perfect for watching alien fleet movements without being seen. "Control, this is Scout 7, he whispered into his communicator. "I'm seeing something strange near the Vega system." "Go," head Scout 7. "Federation heavy cruiser dead in space. Hull damage consistent with kinetic impact. No energy weapon signatures." There was silence from the control center. Kinetic weapons meant metal projectiles, the kind humans used. But humans weren't supposed to be anywhere near Federation space. "Scout 7, can you identify the attackers?" Jae-won adjusted his sensors and swept the area. "Negative. Whoever did this is long gone. But Control, this wasn't done by any Federation weapon I know." Back on Haven, Colonel Sung-ho studied the reports coming in from across the galaxy. The pattern was becoming clear. Unknown attackers were hitting Federation positions with weapons and tactics that didn't match any known alien species. "Sir," Bora said, looking up from her console, "I've been analyzing the attack patterns. Look at this." She projected a star map showing all the recent attacks. Red dots marked where Federation outposts had been destroyed. The attackers are using hit-and-run tactics. They strike fast, cause maximum damage, then disappear before reinforcements arrive. They're also targeting communication relays and supply depots. Sung-ho nodded slowly. "Classic guerrilla warfare. Disrupt supply lines, destroy communications, avoid direct confrontation with superior forces." "Sir, that sounds like human tactics." "I know." Sung-ho frowned. "But our people are all accounted for. Captain Lee's fleet is keeping a low profile in the Outer Rim. This is someone else." On the Federation capital world, Emergency Council, sessions had become daily events. The crystal spires of the government complex hummed with worried alien voices. Admiral Korthak of the Vorthak Navy stood before the assembled representatives. His crystalline body reflected the chamber's lights. As he spoke, "The attacks are increasing in frequency and effectiveness. We have lost 17 outposts and 4 patrol ships in the last month." "What do we know about the attackers?" asked the Nexari collective mind through their speaker. "Very little. They use kinetic weapons that penetrate our energy shields. Their attack patterns are chaotic and unpredictable. They seem to strike wherever we are weakest." A luminous being flickered with agitation. "Kinetic weapons are primitive technology. No advanced species would rely on such crude methods." "Primitive or not, they are effective," Admiral Korthak replied. "Our shields are designed to deflect energy weapons. Metal projectiles pass through them like they don't exist." The chamber fell silent. For 5 years, the Federation had believed they had evolved beyond crude physical weapons. They had focused on energy technology and quantum defenses. Now someone was using their advancement against them. In the Outer Rim, Captain Dongwoo Lee's settlement had grown into a small city. Human families had built homes and started farms. Children played in streets while their parents worked to build a new life. But Dongwoo had not forgotten his military duties. His ships remained ready for combat, and his people trained regularly. When the news of Federation attacks reached them, he called a meeting of his senior officers. "Unknown raiders are hitting Federation targets," he announced to the assembled captains. "They're using tactics that sound familiar." "Human tactics, sir?" asked Captain Yoonji Park. "Exactly, but it's not us, and it's not any known alien species. Someone new has entered the galaxy and they fight like humans." The officers exchanged worried glances. If something out there was using human tactics but wasn't human, it might be much more dangerous than the Federation realized. Back on Haven, Engineer Minji Beck received an urgent message from her scout network. She read it twice before believing. Colonel, you need to see this," she called to Sung-ho. He hurried over to her workstation. "What is it?" "One of our deep space monitors picked up something. A ship, design unknown, jumping into hyperspace near the Centauri system. Show me. The holographic display showed a blurry image of a dark, angular vessel. It was clearly not Federation technology, but it wasn't human either. The ship had a predatory look, like something built for hunting. Analysis suggests it's using some kind of stealth system. Minji continued. Our monitors only caught it for a few seconds when it jumped. Sung-Ho studied the image carefully. Size estimate? About the same as a Federation heavy cruiser. But look at these weapon mounts. Minji highlighted several points on the ship's hull. Instead of the smooth energy weapon ports used by Federation ships, this vessel had angular projections that looked like cannon barrels. Kinetic weapons, Sung-Ho said quietly. That's what I think. Sir, whoever is attacking the Federation, they're not from this galaxy. This is something new. Across the galaxy, Federation patrols began finding more evidence of the mysterious attackers. Destroyed outposts showed signs of coordinated assault by multiple small units. Communication equipment had been specifically targeted and destroyed. Supplies had been stolen rather than destroyed. The aliens who had dismissed human warfare as primitive were learning hard lessons about asymmetric combat. Their advanced weapons were powerful, but they required time to charge and aim. Their quantum shields could stop energy weapons, but they consumed enormous power and left the ships vulnerable to physical impact. The unknown enemy exploited every weakness with surgical precision. On Earth, former Admiral Hye Jin Choi monitored Federation emergency broadcasts. The aliens were clearly struggling with an enemy they didn't understand. Their predictable tactics and overwhelming reliance on technology made them vulnerable to anyone who fought differently. She thought about Captain Lee's exile fleet, building their new lives among distant stars. She thought about the human colonies, now under Federation protection. Most of all, she thought about the lessons humanity had learned through centuries of warfare. The Federation had rejected human military knowledge as obsolete. Now they were facing an enemy that fought like humans, and they had no idea how to respond. Hye Jin opened a secure communication channel to the Outer Rim settlements. If these attacks continued, the Federation might swallow their pride and ask for help. When that happened, humanity needed to be ready. The galaxy's great peace was ending. Something dangerous had emerged from the dark between stars, and it was hunting the civilization that thought it had evolved beyond war. The Federation was about to learn that evolution meant nothing to an enemy that refused to follow the rules. The invasion fleet appeared without warning at the edge of the outer Cygnus sector. Massive ships, dark as space itself, dropped out of hyperspace near the Federation colony of New Harmony. They were unlike anything in the galactic databases. General Wu Jinhan watched the emergency broadcasts from his command center on Haven. The images showed ships that looked like moving cities, covered in weapon ports and fighter bays. But it was the attackers themselves that made his blood run cold. My God, whispered Intelligence Officer Young Hee Shin. Look at how they move. The enemy ships didn't follow normal space combat patterns. Instead of maintaining formation and firing at long range like civilized species, they swarmed their targets like predators. Smaller ships darted between the borer, larger vessels striking wherever Federation defenses were weakest. They fight like animals, Young Hee continued. No coordination, no strategy, just pure aggression. But Wu Jin saw something else. The enemy's movements looked chaotic, but there was method in the madness. They were adapting to Federation tactics in real time, changing their approach whenever the aliens tried to counterattack. The Federation called them the Shathari Swarm. Within 3 days, they had destroyed the orbital defenses around New Harmony and landed ground forces on the planet's surface. On Earth, Ambassador Kyung-Suk-Oh received an encrypted message through channels that hadn't been used in 5 years. The sender was Admiral Korthak of the Vorthak Navy, the same alien who had voted to exclude humanity from galactic military operations. Ambassador O, the crystal being said in the hologram, the Federation requires immediate consultation on tactical matters. Kyung-Suk kept her expression neutral. I'm sorry, Admiral, but humans are no longer part of Federation military operations. Perhaps you should consult your advanced warfare specialists. The aliens' crystalline features shifted in what might have been embarrassment. The situation has become complex. Our standard tactics appear ineffective against this new enemy, and you think primitive human tactics might help? We think human experience with unconventional warfare might provide insights. Kyung-suk paused the transmission and contacted General Han on Haven. 20 minutes later, she resumed the call. General Han is willing to provide limited tactical consultation. However, any human involvement will require full access to battle, data, and complete operational authority for human advisors. Admiral Korthak's form flickered with agitation. Operational authority? That seems excessive for consultation. Take it or leave it, Admiral. General Han's terms are non-negotiable. 2 hours later, Lieutenant Hyun Woo Nam and his special operations team launched from Haven in a fast courier ship. They were the first humans to enter Federation space since the exile began. The journey to the Cygnus sector took 4 days. When they arrived, the scope of the disaster became clear. 3 Federation battle groups had been destroyed trying to retake New Harmony. The Shathari had fortified the planet's surface and were using it as a base to launch attacks on nearby systems. Lieutenant Nam materialized on the bridge of the Federation command ship via transport beam. The alien officers stared at him with mixtures of curiosity and desperation. His simple human uniform looked primitive compared to their advanced battle armor. "I am Lieutenant Nam," he announced to the assembled aliens. "General Han has authorized me to provide tactical consultation. Show me what you've tried so far." Admiral Korthak activated the holographic display. "We have attempted 3 direct assaults on the planet. Our energy weapons cannot penetrate their defensive shields, and they adapt to our attack patterns within minutes." Nam studied the tactical readouts. The Federation had tried the same approach 3 times. Form battle lines, advance slowly while firing energy weapons, attempt to establish orbital superiority. It was exactly what any civilized species would do. "You're fighting them like they're another Federation member," Nam said bluntly. "They're not. They're predators. You need to think like prey that fights back." "Explain," the Admiral requested. "Stop trying to win clean victories. Make them pay for every advantage. Use their aggression against them." Nam outlined his plan. Instead of direct assault, the Federation forces would use hit-and-run tactics. Small groups would strike Shathari positions and withdraw before the enemy could respond. They would target supply lines and communication nodes rather than trying to destroy the main enemy force. "This is guerrilla warfare," Admiral Korthak said with obvious distaste. "Hardly civilized." "Civilization is a luxury you can't afford right now," Nam replied. "Do you want to win, or do you want to look good losing?" The first human-advised operation launched 6 hours later. 3 Federation frigates, loaded with kinetic torpedoes instead of energy weapons, struck a Shathari supply convoy. They fired their weapons and jumped to hyperspace before the enemy could counterattack. The Shathari tried to pursue, but the Federation ships had already scattered to predetermined coordinates. When the aliens reformed their convoy, another group of ships hit them from a different direction. For the first time since the invasion began, Federation forces achieved victory without losses. Analyst Young Hee Shin monitored the battle from the command ship's tactical center. She watched as the Shathari tried to adapt to the new Federation tactics, but the constant hit-and-run attacks kept them off balance. "They're getting frustrated," she reported to Lieutenant Nam. "Their formation discipline is breaking down." Good. Frustrated enemies make mistakes. The pattern continued for 2 weeks. Federation forces, following human tactical doctrine, slowly wore down the Shathari defenses. They avoided direct confrontation and instead focused on disrupting enemy operations. The Shathari, used to overwhelming opponents with superior aggression, had no answer for an enemy that refused to fight on their terms. The breakthrough came when a Federation strike team, guided by human intelligence analysis, discovered the Shathari command ship hiding in New Harmony's asteroid belt. Instead of attacking it directly, they targeted its supply ships and communication relays. Cut off from their fleet and unable to coordinate their forces, The Shathari commander made the mistake the humans had been waiting for. He led his ships in a direct assault on the Federation battle group, abandoning the defensive advantages that had protected him. Lieutenant Nam watched from the command bridge as the Shathari fleet charged toward them in perfect formation. All ships implement Pattern 7. The Federation vessels scattered like startled fish, but this time it was deliberate. They had practiced this maneuver for days under human instruction. As the Shathari ships pursued individual targets, they found themselves separated and vulnerable. Federation heavy cruisers, using kinetic weapons at close range, destroyed 3 Shathari ships before the enemy realized the trap. The alien fleet tried to regroup, but human-trained Federation officers anticipated their movements. "Target their command ship," Nam ordered. All kinetic weapons concentrated fire. The Shathari flagship, caught between 3 Federation vessels, took devastating damage. Its shields, designed to stop energy weapons, offered no protection against high-velocity metal projectiles. Within minutes, the Shathari commander was dead, and his fleet was retreating toward the edge of the system. In the aftermath, Admiral Korthak stood beside Lieutenant Nam on the observation deck. Below them, Federation ships were landing on New Harmony to begin liberation operations. "Your tactics were effective," the Admiral admitted reluctantly. "They were human tactics," Nam corrected. "Adapted for your situation." "Yes. Well, the crystalline being paused. Perhaps there is value in maintaining diverse tactical approaches." Nam smiled grimly. "Is that the Federation's way of saying you were wrong about human warfare being obsolete?" Admiral Korthak didn't answer directly, but his next words spoke volumes. "Lieutenant Nam, the Federation Council would like to discuss expanding human tactical consultation to other threatened sectors. I'll pass that along to General Han." As Nam prepared to return to Haven, he knew this was only the beginning. The Shathari had been defeated, but they were just one threat among many. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers that the Federation's advanced civilization wasn't prepared to handle. They would need human help again. And next time they might not be so reluctant to ask for it. Young Hee Shin compiled her after-action report as their ship jumped to hyperspace. Her analysis was clear. Human tactical flexibility and adaptive thinking had succeeded where Federation technological superiority had failed. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson. Evolution didn't always mean improvement. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways. And sometimes the species you dismissed as primitive were the ones who could save your civilization. Word of humanity's victory over the Shathari spread across the galaxy faster than light. Within weeks, Marshal Sang-Min Ju found himself overwhelmed with requests for human military assistance. He sat in his new office on Haven, looking at a list of crisis reports that grew longer each day. The Federation had been so confident in their advanced warfare that they had forgotten how to deal with enemies who didn't follow civilized rules. "Sir, we have urgent requests from 7 different sectors," reported his aide, Captain Yoon-ji Park. "The Void Wraiths are attacking the inner colonies. The Silicon Collective has launched coordinated strikes on 3 Federation worlds, and something called the Crimson Hegemony just destroyed the entire Tau Ceti defense fleet." Sang-Min studied the tactical reports. Each enemy was different, but they all had one thing in common. They were beating Federation forces using methods that advanced alien technology couldn't counter. "What's our current strength?" he asked. "We have about 3,000 human military personnel spread across the Outer Rim settlements, plus whatever equipment we've been able to build or salvage. It wasn't much to save a galaxy, but it would have to do." The first major test came in the Vega system, where the Void Wraiths had appeared without warning. These enemies were worse than the Shathari. They could phase shift their ships through solid matter, making Federation weapons useless. Captain Yoon-ji Park led the human response team to the Vega system aboard a modified Federation cruiser. Her crew was a mixture of human officers and alien volunteers who had requested training in human tactics. "Captain," reported Tactical Officer Wei Jin Moon, "the Wraiths just passed through 3 Federation battleships without taking any damage. They're firing some kind of dark energy weapon from inside the hulls." Park watched the battle unfold on her tactical display. Federation ships were firing energy beams at enemies they couldn't hit, while the Wraiths moved through space like ghosts. "Forget the energy weapons," Park ordered. All ships switch to kinetic payloads. If they can phase through energy, let's see how they handle good old-fashioned explosions. The Federation officers looked confused. Captain, kinetic weapons won't be any more effective than energy weapons, won't they? Park smiled grimly. Target their emergence points, not their current positions. These things have to become solid to fire their weapons. When they do, we'll be waiting. It took careful timing and a lot of luck, but Park's strategy worked. When the Void Wraiths phased back into normal space to attack, they found kinetic torpedoes waiting for them. The explosions tore through their ships like they were made of paper. Within 3 hours, the Wraith fleet was destroyed, and the Vega system was safe. Meanwhile, Major In-Ho Kwan was dealing with a very different problem in the Kepler sector. The Silicon Collective was a race of artificial intelligences that fought using pure logic and mathematics. They could predict Federation tactics with perfect accuracy because alien military doctrine followed predictable patterns. Kwan stood in the briefing room of a Federation command ship, facing a group of very frustrated alien officers. "They know what we're going to do before we do it," complained Admiral Zexthera of the Nexari. "Their computer networks analyze our formations and counter every move instantly. Then stop being predictable," Kwan said simply. "Explain." Kwan activated the holographic display and showed them footage of the latest Silicon Collective attack. "They're machines. They think like machines. Perfect logic, optimal solutions, predictable responses to known variables." He changed the display to show human tactical doctrine. "Humans don't think like machines. We're chaotic, emotional, and sometimes completely irrational. That's our advantage." "You want us to be irrational?" Admiral Zexthera asked in disbelief. "I want you to be human. Make decisions that don't make sense. Attack when you should retreat. Retreat when you should attack. Be so unpredictable that their computers can't keep up." The next battle against the Silicon Collective was unlike anything in Federation military history. Human-trained alien officers made decisions that violated every principle of advanced warfare. They split their forces for no apparent reason. They attacked defended positions while ignoring obvious weak points. They used outdated weapons when advanced alternatives were available. The Silicon Collective's computer networks tried to analyze the Federation tactics and failed completely. Every prediction algorithm returned error messages when faced with strategies that made no logical sense. Unable to predict their enemies' actions, the artificial intelligence fleet fell apart. Their perfect coordination became chaos when they couldn't anticipate what the Federation would do next. Major Kwan watched from the command bridge as the Silicon ships retreated in confusion. "Sometimes," he said to the alien officers around him, "the best strategy is to have no strategy at all." But the greatest challenge came from the Crimson Hegemony, a militaristic empire that launched simultaneous attacks on 12 Federation worlds. Their strategy was overwhelming force applied everywhere at once. Strategist Ah Young-song studied the tactical situation from her mobile command center. The hegemony had more ships, better weapons, and superior logistics. By every measure of conventional warfare, they should win easily. "They're trying to force us into a war of attrition," she explained to Marshal Sang-Min-ju via hologram. "They want us to spread our forces thin, trying to defend everything. Then they'll overwhelm us piece by piece. What do you recommend? We do exactly what they don't expect. We abandon the outer colonies and concentrate our entire fleet in one system." The hologram flickered as Sang-Min paused. "Abandon 12 worlds to save one? Trust me, sir. I have a plan. Against all military logic, the Federation fleet withdrew from 11 systems and massed their forces around the industrial world of New Berlin. The Crimson Hegemony took the abandoned colonies without firing a shot, exactly as planned. But when they moved to attack New Berlin, they found something unexpected. The Federation hadn't just concentrated their fleet, they had turned the entire system into a trap. Song had spent weeks preparing. Asteroid fields were seeded with mines. Space stations had been rigged to explode when enemy ships came too close. Even the planet's orbital factories had been converted into massive kinetic weapons. The Crimson Hegemony fleet entered the system expecting an easy victory. Instead, They found themselves surrounded by dangers on all sides. All units, execute. Random dispersal pattern, Song ordered. The Federation fleet scattered throughout the system, not retreating but spreading out to trigger the traps that Song had prepared. Everywhere the Crimson ships turned, they found new threats. When the enemy tried to regroup, human-guided Federation ships hit them from unexpected directions. When they tried to advance, they ran into minefields and booby traps. When they tried to retreat, they found their escape routes blocked by sacrificial Federation vessels. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the Crimson hegemony had lost 60% of their fleet in a single engagement. The survivors retreated to their home territory and never bothered the Federation again. In the aftermath, Marshal Sang-Min-ju established the Human Military Response Corps. Every request for assistance had to acknowledge humanity's strategic value and provide full resources for human officers. The pattern became predictable. Federation forces would engage a new enemy using standard tactics. They would suffer heavy losses. They would request human assistance. Human-trained forces would adapt quickly and find solutions that advanced alien technology couldn't provide. By WarHFY 2398, no major Federation military operation launched without human command elements. The species that had once dismissed humans as too primitive now sent their officers to human-run training academies. Captain Yoon-ji Park found herself teaching Federation naval tactics to alien students. Major In-ho Kwon ran courses on asymmetric warfare. Strategist Ah Young-song advised the Federation Council on long-term military planning. "It's ironic," Park said to her class of WarHFY naval cadets. "Your species voted us out because you thought we were too violent and unpredictable. Now you're here learning to be violent and unpredictable from us." One of the crystal beings raised a limb. "Instructor Park, why are human tactics so effective when they seem so chaotic?" Park thought for a moment. "Because chaos is natural. Your advanced civilizations have tried to eliminate chaos from warfare. You want everything clean, logical, and predictable. But the universe isn't clean or logical. It's messy and dangerous and full of surprises." She gestured to the tactical display showing their latest victory. "Human tactics work because we accept that chaos is part of warfare. We don't try to eliminate it. We use it." Another student asked, "But surely there are limits to how effective primitive tactics can be?" Park smiled grimly. "Every enemy we've faced has been more advanced than us. Better weapons, superior technology, larger fleets, and we've beaten them all. Because in the end, wars aren't won by the most advanced civilization. They're won by the one that adapts fastest." As 2398 ended, the galaxy had learned to depend on human military leadership. The Federation's technological superiority meant nothing without human tactical flexibility to guide it. Marshal Sang-Min-ju looked out at the stars from his command center and wondered what new threats would emerge from the darkness. Whatever came next. The warning came from the deepest archives of the Galactic Federation. Ancient files sealed for millennia suddenly became the most important documents in the galaxy. Director Hwan Seok-kim stood in the Federation's central library, watching. Alien archaeologists work frantically to decode prehistoric records. The crystalline data storage units were older than most civilizations in the galaxy. "What exactly are we looking for?" asked Dr. Tae-Young Choi, the human xenoarchaeologist who had been called in to help with the translation. The WarHFY librarians' crystal form flickered with urgency. "References to the Devourers, ancient machine intelligences that nearly destroyed all organic life 3 million years ago." Dr. Choi studied the holographic display showing fragments of text in dozens of dead languages. "Why the sudden interest in ancient history?" "Because they're coming back." The deep space monitoring stations had detected them first. Massive geometric shapes moving between the stars at impossible speeds. Ships the size of moons, constructed from materials that shouldn't exist. They were heading straight for the heart of Federation space. Fleet Admiral Yeon-Soo Choi commanded the largest military force in galactic history. Over 2,000 ships from 100 different species, all under human tactical command. It still might not be enough. She stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Determination, watching long-range sensors track the approaching fleet. The Devourer ships looked like moving mathematics, all angles and impossible curves that hurt to look at. "Admiral," reported Captain Jin Wu-shin, "we're receiving telemetry from the outer sensor grid. The enemy fleet consists of approximately 50 vessels, each one larger than our biggest dreadnoughts." "Size means nothing if we can't hurt them," Yansu replied. "What do we know about their capabilities?" "According to the ancient records, they adapt to any weapon used against them. Energy weapons become ineffective after the first few hits. Kinetic weapons work longer, but they eventually develop countermeasures." That was the terrifying truth hidden in the prehistoric archives. The Devourers were perfect learning machines. They analyzed every attack, every strategy, every tactical innovation. Within hours, they could counter any approach used against them. 3 million years ago, they had swept through the galaxy like a plague. Hundreds of advanced civilizations had fallen before them. Entire species had been reduced to raw materials. For the Devourer fleets, only one species had survived the ancient war. Only one had found a way to fight the perfect learning machines and win. The archive records are clear, Dr. Choi had reported to the Federation Council. Humans are descended from the only species that successfully resisted the Devourers. Our ancestors called them the First Builders, a civilization that defeated the machines through pure tactical unpredictability. Chancellor Myung-Hoon Ryu sat in the Federation Council chamber, watching alien representatives debate humanity's role in the coming war. After years of reluctant cooperation, the Federation finally understood what they had almost lost. "The evidence is undeniable," the Nexari Collective announced. "Human tactical doctrine directly descends from the First Builders' war strategies. Their unpredictability is not primitive thinking. It is evolved anti-machine warfare." The luminous representative flickered with what might have been shame. "We nearly excluded from the galaxy the only species capable of fighting our greatest enemy." "Nearly excluded?" Chancellor Ryu stood up slowly. "You did exclude us. You called us primitive warmongers and stripped us of military authority. Now, you want our help because you've discovered that our primitive ancestors saved the galaxy once before." The chamber fell silent. Every alien representative knew the truth. They had condemned humanity out of prejudice and arrogance. "Now that prejudice might cost them everything, what do you want?" asked the council speaker. "Full restoration to the Galactic Federation, not as junior members or military consultants, but as the Federation's military protectorate. Complete authority over all defensive operations." It was a bitter pill for species that had considered themselves humanity's superiors, but with the Devourers approaching, they had no choice. "Agreed," the speaker said finally. The first battle took place at the edge of the Proxima system. General Sujin Lee commanded the Federation's advance fleet, using every lesson learned from 3 years of unconventional warfare. The Devourer ships emerged from hyperspace like nightmares made real. Their hulls shifted and changed as they moved, adapting to scanning attempts in real time. They didn't follow normal physics, they created their own. "All ships implement Chaos Protocol 7, Lee ordered. It was the most insane battle plan in galactic history. Federation ships scattered in random directions, firing at targets chosen by dice rolls and coin flips. There was no coordination, no strategy, no logical pattern to follow. The Devourers tried to analyze the Federation tactics and failed. Their perfect learning algorithms couldn't predict actions that were chosen randomly. For the first time in 3 million years, the machines found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't understand. "Target selection by random number generator," Lee ordered. "Fire patterns determined by chaos mathematics. No ship follows the same approach twice." It worked, but only for a few hours. The Devourers began adapting to randomness itself, finding patterns in the chaos. The Federation fleet was forced to retreat with heavy losses. "They're learning," reported Tactical Officer C. Jin Park. "Each time we use a random pattern, they get better at predicting it." General Lee smiled grimly. "Then, we stop using patterns entirely." The final battle took place above the Federation capital world. Director Hwan Seok Kim had spent weeks preparing for this moment, studying every record of the ancient war between the first builders and the devourers. "Admiral," he called to Yansu from the tactical center, "I've found something in the archives. The first builders didn't defeat the devourers by being unpredictable. They did it by deliberately losing battles." "Explain." "The machines learned from victory. Every time they won an engagement, they became better at fighting. But the first builders created scenarios where devourer victories actually weakened them." Admiral Yansu studied the ancient tactical records. "Tactical traps. Let them win battles that teach them the wrong lessons." "Exactly. Make them think they understand human tactics, then change everything." The plan was audacious beyond belief. The Federation fleet would deliberately lose the first 3 engagements, allowing the devourers to study and adapt to human tactics. Each defeat would teach the machines specific lessons about how humans fought. Then in the final battle, humans would do exactly the opposite of everything they had done before. It nearly failed. 3 Federation battle groups were destroyed in carefully orchestrated defeats. The devourers learned to counter human chaos tactics, random targeting, and asymmetric warfare. The machines were confident they understood humanity's capabilities when the final engagement began. That's when General Lee implemented the real strategy. Instead of chaos, perfect coordination. Instead of random targeting, precise focus fire. Instead of asymmetric warfare, direct frontal assault. The devourers, programmed to counter the tactics they had already seen, were completely unprepared for their enemies to fight like advanced Federation forces. "All ships battle line formation," Lee ordered. "Concentrated energy weapons, maximum power, fight like WarHFY." It was the last thing the devourers expected. They had spent weeks learning to fight chaotic humans, not organized aliens. Their adaptive algorithms had been optimized for the wrong enemy. The Federation fleet, fighting with textbook alien tactics guided by human strategic thinking, tore through the devourer formation. The ancient machines, confused by an enemy that had completely changed its nature, fell one by one. When the last devourer ship was destroyed, the galaxy was finally safe. In the aftermath, Director Hwan Seok Kim established human military academies on 12 worlds. Alien officers came from across the galaxy to study under human instructors, learning the tactical flexibility that had saved civilization. "The irony is complete," Kim said to Chancellor Ryu as they watched WarHFY cadets practice chaos theory in the Academy's training halls. "They called us primitive and excluded us from their advanced galaxy. Now their children come to us to learn how to fight." "Do you think they've truly learned their lesson?" Ryu asked. Kim watched as a young Nexari officer successfully executed a random targeting exercise under human supervision. "They've learned that survival matters more than pride. Whether they've learned respect, that remains to be seen." The galaxy had been saved, but at a cost. Humanity had become indispensable to galactic defense, forever needed but forever separate. They were the guardians who could never be dismissed, the warriors who could never be truly understood. Every species in the Federation now acknowledged what they had once denied. In a universe full of unknown threats, the galaxy's survival depended on the very traits they had once scorned: unpredictability, adaptability, the willingness to do whatever it took to win. The galaxy had learned to depend on human warfare, and in every future conflict, when civilized tactics failed and advanced, technology proved useless. The call would go out across the stars: send for the humans. They were the species that refused to follow the rules.